So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the press conference for the movie The Turning. And I'm going to introduce our guests, and I'm starting from your left. This is, there are a lot of directors, so I'm going to just say the name of the director, not the name of the part that they directed, because I simply don't know some of them, or some of the names of the parts. I'm going to start with Jaron Lifshitz. Welcome to Berlin.
Thank you.
And next to him is Jonathan Auf der Heide. Welcome. And this is Sean Gladwell.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. And Rice Graham is sitting next to him. Welcome to Berlin, Mr. Graham. And this is an actor between all the directors, Hugo Weaving, known for a lot of movies. It's wonderful to have you here. David Wenham is sitting next to him. Welcome. And next to me, this is a director and also producer, Robert Connolly. Wonderful that you're here. I would like to know, I think, of every one of you, of the directors, did you read the book first and then you picked out the short story you liked most and then you thought about it with the others? Or how did that happen? Or was it a kind of showing every little piece of papers in a box and then getting it?
I think I was fortunate because I've known Robert for many years. In fact, I think 25 years ago was our first creative involvement in the theatre. So I'd worked with Robert on a number of different projects. One of them actually we came here 18 years ago for a film adaptation of a play that we both worked on called The Boys, and that film was in competition back then. So Robert came to me relatively early in the process and said he was making an adaptation. Read the book, see if there was any story that resonated with me personally, but he thought that the story Commission might be the one that I might be attracted to. I read the book, I loved it, I loved a lot of the short stories, and that story was in fact the one that I went on to direct because it did resonate with me for a lot of different reasons. It's a story that deals with secrets within families, and my family certainly has a lot that has been revealed over the years, so that's where I began.
You just said it's separate stories, but not really, as it seems there are some characters that are in a lot of stories, not in all of them, but in some of them. And your character, Mr. Weaving, the name is, I think, Bob Lang, and it's the father of Vic Lang, who has a lot of stories, so maybe you can say something about what you know about this guy?
Yeah, the Langs are in, I think, about eight different stories in the book, and Bob Lang is mentioned in a number of stories. Vic, his son, is the central character of the suite of stories, and he pops up quite a lot. And in the film, we see Bob twice in two separate films, and all of these characters that come back in the film are played by different actors. So there were two separate actors playing Bob. Bob's an ex-policeman who has, while he was a cop, he found himself surrounded by a lot of corruption and couldn't do anything about it, didn't have the strength to stand up against it, and started to destroy himself from within. So he's a man who's abandoned his family, become an alcoholic, and then disappeared like a hermit up to the country. And he's been living there on his own for 15 years. And Commission, the story that David directed that I was in, is about the reconciliation between the father and son.
Another question to the directors: how much did you know about the others? What your colleagues were doing while you were filming your little part of the story? Did you talk to each other, or was it forbidden?
Forbidden. Yeah, I didn't know it was forbidden, but from my behalf. Well, I didn't break the rule then, Robert. I don't think any of us were really aware of what anybody else was actually doing in their own production. They all occurred over a period of how long, Rob? Nearly a year, was it, that different films were occurring? But so it was a surprise for all of us when the film was actually put together to actually see what everybody else had been doing over that period of time.
It made the premiere very interesting. Yeah, seeing 17 other films and how they all link together, even though we had absolutely no contact with each other.
RTL television, Jonathan told before that you just see when it's cut together. what comes out of it. So question to Robert, are you a little bit afraid? Maybe what would it be when it's finished? And question to David, you are one of the actors like Mia Wasikowska also, who turning to from an actor to a director for this movie. So is it much more better or much more difficult to standing now on the other side and seeing the whole thing from another perspective?
Acting going over to the other side of the camera. Look, it was a treat for me. It's something that I've wanted to do for a number of years, and I think this was the perfect introduction into directing for me. I'm so glad that this was my first step, a 12-minute film as opposed to suddenly directing a feature film. It was wonderful, and as an actor, it ticks a few boxes in the creative side of the brain, but being a director, I found there were many more boxes that I could actually tick, and I actually found it probably more creatively fulfilling, being on the other side of the camera. I loved the whole process of it. I loved actually writing. That was a big surprise to me, and I still love writing now. And then being on set and having the opportunity to actually work with actors and other creatives on set, I just found an absolute revelation. And then being in post-production and working with the editor and the composer and whatever, was just, it was very liberating for me creatively, and it opened a door that I want to just keep walking down further and further.
But I think that sense of Tim is, you're talking about the overall genius behind the whole project. I mean, apart from Robert, who kind of coordinated it all, but Tim himself and his writing is the thing that links all of us, I think, and the thing that we've all responded to. So, it speaks very highly of him that there is a homogeneity and there is of tone, and even though the pieces are very different, there's a sense that it is very much one film, and I think that's largely because of Tim and Robert. But the source material is so strong and so resonant for all of us. I think that's why we kind of respond in similar ways to it. When I first saw the film, I assumed that the composer was there was one composer on it. Mm-hmm. I didn't realise there was completely separate composers on each piece. So it's amazing.
It's such an interesting aspect, almost like an experience or something, that they compose in the same key. It's really great. Yeah. We have to call it off because there are other people waiting already. But I would like to thank you again for this wonderful experience and this wonderful movie, and good luck with it. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.